Hello and welcome to this week's edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joe Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to sit down with some of our alumni. I talk to those who graduated in communication studies, others who earned a bachelor's degree in digital media production, and even some who got their master's degrees. Today, we are talking with Ben Paige. Ben is a 2017 graduate of UCM with a degree in communication studies. Ben, we got a lot to unpack today. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let's start out. Talk about where you're from, what brought you to UCM, and what got you into communication studies.
Absolutely. Yeah. So from St. Louis and grew up in St. Charles County and played high school football, went out to Atchison, Kansas, to Benedictine College for a total of one semester, and realized I didn't like football that much anymore to play it at a level past high school. And so I had some friends that went to UCM and they were having a good time and they were liking it. And so that was really as much, that's where the decision came from, was just I had some friends that went there and they were having a good time. So I thought, all right, I'm not going to play football anymore. Let's go try that out.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish coaches, former players would come back and tell high school student athletes that, you get to college, it's a little bit different. You're playing in high school, it's just something you're doing. You get to college, it kind of becomes part of the business, and it's year round. It's a lot of days, a lot of nights. So you made that
Yep.
decision early, and I don't think you ever looked back, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I was happy once I got to UCM.
We were glad that you got here. So what all were you involved in when you got to UCM?
When I got to UCM, I lived in Ellis Hall. So just started getting acquainted with the campus, going to some classes. It was really interesting because Benedictine was such a small school, and then UCM still is, smaller or medium sized, but it just seemed so much bigger, and it seemed exciting, and it was fun. And so one of the things that I did was I joined Sigma Tau Gamma on campus. That was a lot of fun and a really good experience. And I got into the business school at first.
So you went to business school first, and then you
Yeah.
transferred over to communication. Why'd you do that?
Um, I think uh I think in the business school, like I really have never been like a big math guy. And so, I was in accounting and stats and just doing a lot of math and stuff. And just don't really naturally enjoy it. And I did enjoy macroeconomics. I did that with Dr. Azevedo. That's one of the professors I remember who I really
Good buddy of
like.
mine. Yep.
Azevedo is great. I actually worked for Dr. Azevedo at his house a couple times doing like cutting his lawn and stuff like that when I was in school. So he's a cool dude. But yeah, I'm more of the uh the communication side of business and stuff. That's where my natural gifts are, I think, versus like, the accounting math type stuff. And so I randomly ended up in Terry Kinconen's office, um, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my major and stuff. And there's just something about him that I really liked. And I felt a lot of similarities between the two of us. And so I was like, man, if this guy is in the communication program here, and he recommends it, and he's an instructor and like basically dedicating his entire professional life to this college, the communication program specifically, I was like, I mean, that's really why I did it, was because I liked Terry and kind of trusted that, if this guy's doing this, then there must be something to it.
Well, remind me to thank Terry for bringing you to us. I think that
Mhm.
students that go into business, they fall into two categories, is what it seems to me, that those that do like the math, that want to do the finance, the economics, the accounting, and those who are in it more for the relationships and the team building and the teamwork.
Yep.
And we tend to get a lot of those students who either will minor in communication studies, or they leave business altogether and come studying communication. Did you keep business as a minor?
I did not.
So you just jumped all in with communication with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. Well, that worked out great for us. So today, Let's talk about what you're doing today. I went through your LinkedIn, been working in real estate and in sales after graduating, and now today you are the co-founder and part owner of Peak Development Partners. As I looked at the website, it says you are in commercial real estate and that you specialize in single tenant retail. You also have some of my favorite businesses with Panera and Hawaiian Bros and Steak and Shake, Raising Canes. That's my jam right there. I love me some Raising Canes. Was that the plan all along that you wanted to get into development and start your own business?
I always knew that I wanted to start my own business. I didn't know anything about commercial real estate though. Uh, I think that what I learned in the communication program at UCM helped me get my first mentor. So got my first mentor through a fraternity event that I went to during my senior year. And what I was learning in the communication program was all about, I mean, I actually took a class called listening, which was with Carol Benton. Uh,
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you right there. The last three comm study students I have interviewed for this podcast have brought up Carol Benton's
yeah.
listening class. And I just shared something on my LinkedIn page about listening and how important it is to not just hear, but to hear what they say, and not just so you can respond, but so you can understand. And that's what that class is all about. And it sounded like it worked out well for you.
Yep, yep. That class, as well as that, and listening is like one of the most important things in business and making money. Um, the other thing that I did when I was at UCM that I loved that helped me get my first mentor and then start a business is the Dale Carnegie program. So I actually got Dale Carnegie certified for college credit, which is what the communication program at UCM offers. Dale Carnegie actually went to our university, which is pretty cool. And I mean, he's a pretty big time famous guy. How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of the best all time selling personal development books in the history of the world. So it's cool that he went to our university. His parents were teachers at our college, and they actually lived nearby because they were teachers there, obviously. So he went to school there, and they've recreated a lot of the communication program around stuff that Dale Carnegie taught, which is all about asking questions, being genuinely interested in other people, using people's names because that's the sweetest sound in any language to them, um, and listening, and really just making your interpersonal communications and your conversations all about the other person. And so many people don't have the ability to do that. Everybody kind of wants to talk about themselves and say, immediate, oh, you have people from St. Louis, you have family from St. Louis. Well, I have family from St. Louis. We're from here, and blah blah. People, just don't really care that much. They want to talk about themselves, and so that's what the communication program was teaching me about. Was about letting other people do the talking, being genuinely interested in other people, asking a lot of questions, and then listening. And so I was learning about that, and then at school at UCM, and then I was actually deploying what I was learning out in the marketplace, and that's how I got my first mentor, which was a guy named Buzz Barlow, who is from Milwaukee, lived in Dallas for over 30 years, and he's a Sig Tau from a different school, but I met him at a national conference and struck up a conversation with him, asking him a lot of questions, listening, being genuinely interested in him. And that started a great friendship between him and I. And then he's who helped me move to Dallas. And that's a big part of my story, what I've been up to for the last, 8 or 9 years.
So you've hit on a couple of big points. The listening, obviously, like we talked about, all the different lessons you get from Dale Carnegie, and really investing in people and hearing their stories and knowing their names and how you can connect with them. And then this idea, and you've brought it up several times, about having the mentor. And Buzz obviously means a lot to you. Talk a little bit more about that, the value of a mentor and finding somebody. They don't even necessarily have to be in what you want to get into, but somebody that you can rely on, that you can go to for counsel, that can be a sounding board.
Yes. Yeah. Mentorship is like, I mean, in my opinion, the most important part of success, or top three most important parts of success. A lot of people who have dedicated their entire lives to becoming exceptional people that are successful, um, they probably already have a family or that's out of the house and stuff. They've achieved financial success, whatever that means for them. They've achieved like a lot of the accolades and things that people are going out there and trying to do. And what a lot of people want is significance and fulfillment and purpose. And so these people that are the type of people who have become really successful, they want to give back and they want to take somebody who they see a little bit of themselves in, when they were that age, and say, man, he or she kind of has that it factor. I see myself in them, and they want to help. And so that can be life changing personally and professionally. But the only way that you can get mentors and the only way that you get those opportunities to have relationships like that is by uh, doing stuff and being active. The more activity you have, the luckier you get. And then whenever you get in front of the right people, not to start, yapping and talking about yourself. It's about what Dale Carnegie taught, which is being genuinely interested in those other people and asking questions and listening.
So, have you found a mentee yet, or is that you talked about that these people typically are older? They have their kids are all grown and everything. You have two. You said under four. Is that right? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
2 kids under 4 years old. Yeah.
Okay. So, a little bit of a challenge now for you because right now you're mentoring two kids under four. But is that something you're looking forward to? Is taking on that mentor role?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Um, I'm trying to think of what somebody used to say that I liked their thoughts on mentorship. It was something about spending a third of your time being mentored, a third of your time with colleagues that are at your same level, and then a third of your time doing some mentoring with younger people who are where you want to be. And so yeah. I mean, I like the idea of being a mentor. I'm still just trying to figure it out myself, So sometimes I feel like, oh man, like, I'm trying to figure out myself. Why would I start telling somebody else how to do it or what to do? But I do have at my company, I do have one employee. I have one partner named Clint, and then one employee named Michael. And I'm 30 years old. He's 27 now. And we work together every day on finding new opportunities in our real estate development business and making deals and stuff. And so I'm in a mentorship role with him where I'm teaching him how to find opportunities and how to make money in the development business. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
When you talked about that when you got into this, you didn't have a background in real estate. How did you then get into it? How did you get into the development and commercial real estate?
So to make this as simple and quick as possible, Buzz, the first mentor, connected me with a guy named Tony Geary. Tony's a high level CEO coach and business strategist, but very legit. One of the first clients that I worked with when I became Tony's assistant, that was my first job after college. And so he has this awesome property in Flower Mound, Texas, here in the DFW area. And he has a coaching studio on his property where he lives. And he has CEOs and other corporate teams and entrepreneurs fly in to get coached by him. And so to give an example, one of those was BNSF Logistics, their CEO, Ray Greer, and their chief operating officer, Dan Curtis. They're part of the BNSF Railway Company, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. And so I was getting to all of a sudden hang out with people, that were the report of Warren Buffett, which was very cool.
Oh,
And that was all made available to me because of being able to become friends with people to get the employment opportunity that I did and stuff, which was really unique. And so worked for Tony for 2 years. A lot of Tony's friends and mentors became my friends and mentors. So I got a new mentor, an additional mentor named Jay Rogers. Jay was a serial entrepreneur, 85-year-old cowboy, lives in Flower Mound, Texas. I always joke around saying like they don't make men like Jay Rogers anymore. He's just he's so hardcore and awesome. But so Jay started mentoring me. He worked for Eastman Kodak back when he was younger in his 20s, and he was in sales. And so he really wanted me to learn sales at a young age. And it stressed that importance if I was going to be a successful entrepreneur. And so he also mentored the co-founder and chief sales officer of Paycom. Paycom is a multi-billion dollar market cap payroll and HR software company. And so I became friends with that guy through my mentor, Jay. And then I went and worked on the outside sales team at Paycom for 3 years. That was a great experience, very challenging. I started with 25 people in my training class. It was myself and one person left after 3 years. So, very rewarding environment, but very, very demanding. And so, at that point when I left, had started there with no money, saved up a little bit of money after at the time that I left Paycom. And I said, man, I really want to figure out what I want to do for a long-term career. I had done a couple things for a couple years each, and I wanted to figure out, hey, what could I go do till I'm like, 50, 60, 70 years old and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, my wife had a tutoring business. She went to UCM. She moved down to Dallas at the same time that I did. She finished her education degree at Texas Women's University in Denton, Texas. And she ended up during COVID, she started a COVID pod learning business. So like all these families now had, a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 8-year-old, and a 12-year-old that were at home during COVID instead of going to school. So
Yeah,
like that's a
it's a
big problem
challenge.
for parents. Yeah. So so I had a friend, a guy that I knew through Tony Jury, knew a guy who lived in a very affluent area of Dallas. And so I made my wife this little flyer that was I called it COVID Pod Learning. And she got basically that flyer got sent out to the neighborhood email chain. And she was able to get a handful of girls that all went to the same elementary school that would congregate at one person's house every day. And my wife would go be their in-home teacher.
Oh,
And
cool.
so it was a great business, very entrepreneurial, cool business, solving a real problem. And she was making some good money doing it too, because you charge per kid. And this is a pretty affluent area where the parents, they're just trying to solve their problem. They're not haggling over the hourly rate. And so she was doing that. That was successful. The kids went back to school, and that turned into after school tutoring for her. And so at that point, I was starting to see these families that my wife was tutoring for, and I obviously knew where they lived because my wife she's at their dining room table, their kitchen table in the evenings after school. And so I'm looking up their house. I'm like, man, this house like $7 million, $12 million, $4 million. I'm like, this is crazy. She's like, you should have seen this house. It looked like you were at Neiman Marcus in North Park Mall inside their house. It's crazy. And so I started to realize that I had a unique opportunity to get to know some of these dads of the tutoring families. Once my wife had enough rapport with the wife that she was the mom that she was tutoring the kids of, I would get my wife to ask the wife, hey, do you think my husband could get together with your husband? He wants to be successful like your husband is. And so I started getting lunch and coffee with all these dads that are all from this area called Highland Park, Texas, which is like a very elite area, very successful people that do really well financially. And so I started sitting down with all of them and learning more about them and seeing what I could learn and try to figure out what I wanted to do for my long-term career. And I noticed that all of them were in private equity or commercial real estate. And so at that point, it was an easy decision. Wanted to get into commercial real estate. One of the dads that I knew was in a young presidents organization in Dallas, the Dallas chapter. And he introduced me to 5 guys that were in his group that were all really successful real estate guys. And so met with all them. And again, like this whole time, this is all the UCM communication program in real life.
Yeah.
Being genuinely interested in other people, asking questions, listening, all the Dale Carnegie stuff and all the stuff that they talk about in the classes at UCM, very, very applicable. It's how you become friends with people. And becoming friends with people is ultimately the most powerful tool for being successful in business and making money. So, so went to work for one of those dads that I met through the tutoring business connection. And so they were really successful doing build-to-suits for 7-Eleven in Texas and Oklahoma. And they for the most part kind of retired about a year and a half in of me working there. And at that point I knew another tutoring dad. My wife had tutored this guy's kids. And coincidentally, my father-in-law actually knew him. They were from the same small town, Wentzville, Missouri, and went to high school together back in the day. And so we knew him through that. And then my wife was also tutoring his kids. And he's a really successful guy that was top 1% of the 1% in the insurance industry. And so at this time that I kind of became jobless, he was having a big exit. And so we talked and said, hey, I can find these real estate deals. Um, and I can get them processed and they make money. And he's like, this could be a perfect partnership, where I can do what you can't do, and you can do what I may not be well suited for right at this time. And so it's just a good partnership between two people who were, 50, 55 years old, 27 years old probably. And we complemented each other well. And we've had our company now for 3 years, and we've had some success, and we have some other good stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just again, networking, making those connections, using those
Yeah.
communication skills. That's great. Well, now I'm really excited to hear your answer to the next question. What does the slogan redefining what's possible mean to Ben Page?
Redefining what's possible. Well, one of my favorite quotes is from Henry Ford, and it's whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Yep, I know
And
that one.
so I always have that in the back of my mind. And, as I've gone through my life since college, I've always thought about that. And so I've always tried to, stay away from limiting beliefs of, that I can do anything that I want to. Doesn't mean that I have to, it doesn't mean that everybody's goal has to be a billionaire and, some stuff like that. But like, I mean, if somebody wanted to be, they could be. Um, and so I've just always had that in mind, redefining what's possible and redefining, not having limiting beliefs. I used to have limiting beliefs that I've, got rid of. And just, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. That's what I tell my brother-in-law, Brady Cook. He played 3 years at Mizzou as the quarterback, started 3 years, 5 years total. And he's playing for the New York Jets now. And that's the what I think of all the time with that quote. That's my same brotherly advice to him. He's my little brother-in-law. That's my same brotherly advice to him is whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Great words, great motivation right there. If you think you can't do it, you've already set yourself up for failure. If you think you can, you've set yourself up for success. That's great advice. I want a little bit more. What advice would you give to a current UCM student? And what advice would you give to a student who's thinking about coming to UCM to study communication?
Current student first.
Yeah.
Current student would be um, to do the Dale Carnegie certification. Definitely encourage that. Uh, and I would say that everything that you're learning is very applicable and very practical. You're not doing some kind of crazy accounting tactic, and you're never going to be in accounting, and it's never going to be useful. Uh, everything that you're learning is very applicable and practical, and take it seriously, and treat it treat it like it matters, because it really does, personally and professionally.
Yeah, dial in, dial in. Take all those lessons you can get and use them. What about
Yep.
that student who's thinking about UCM for communication?
Um, I would say do it. I mean, especially for people like me who are want to be a successful business person, I would say do it. And most people probably think, oh man, like I want to be in business. So common sense would tell me I'm going to go be in the business school.
Right.
I really just think that the communication program at UCM is more about business or as much about business as the business school is. That's just been my experience and everything that you learn in the communication program. You know, being successful in business is communicating, and that doesn't mean talking. Communicating means listening.
Yep.
And
Both sides. Both sides. Yeah. You got to listen. You've got to talk. Take those lessons, build those relationships, and if you want some business acumen and some business knowledge, do a little minor, do something like that. So
yep,
worked out great for you, and we're so proud of you, Ben. Thank you so much for being here today. Keep up the great work. I can't wait to see where you go from here.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
You betcha. And thanks all of you for tuning in today. We appreciate everybody being on, everybody tuning in. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network. That's youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music for us. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.